Here it's Councilman-At-Large Rolando Lavaro, myself, Wordy Councilman James Solomon, and Yousef Saleh, one of the candidates for Ward D. Welcome, Yousef. We hope you and family and all are safe during this pandemic.
Thank you. Same to you as well, and everyone on this call, and everyone in Jersey City.
Awesome. Just so this is happening Monday at 5 p.m. It's the first of a number of interviews, should be about 6 or 7. And just so everyone knows who is watching, we sent all the candidates a list of questions in advance. We're going to try to keep all the interviews to 30 minutes. And then at the end, we will try to ask 1 or 2 questions that are more specific to each individual candidate. And Councilman Lavaro and I will alternate. So we don't want to spend that much more time talking. So let me just start very quickly. So we're going to start with the first and basic question, which is Yousef. So why are you interested in the position of Ward D councilman?
Essentially, I had a healthy hesitancy towards going for this position out of respect to Michael Youn. And I had known him my whole life, and my family knew him, and out of respect to him, I only really put my name in this last weekend, and I feel as though I'm best suited for this position because of my roots here. They extend very deep, me and my family. I was born and raised here in the Heights in Jersey City, and I'm a loyal son, and I attended Head Start here in the Heights. I went to PS28 in the Heights. I went to McNair Academic down in downtown. I have 7 sisters. I'm one of 8. One of my sisters has Down syndrome, and she attends public school. We've all attended public school, and our roots in Jersey City run deep. And I've known Michael Youn for as long as my family has been in the country, and as I'm first generation American, and as long as I've been born, I knew of Michael Youn. So he's a fixture in the community, and I definitely know shoes to fill here when it comes to his position, and that's not lost on me. But I do feel as though I have a unique skill set that can help my community, Jersey City, move forward through this precarious time.
Okay, well, I'll shoot off the second question here, Yousef. Thank you for that. So you've known Councilman Youn all your life, and so you know that as a councilman, he was known for his probing analytical questions and his willingness to take on his council colleagues and the politically powerful. So how specifically will you follow that example, and how would you approach the role differently from the way Councilman Youn did?
I think as you have seen me evolve throughout my political and community life here in Jersey City, as I've become more active, I haven't been shy in calling truth to power. The latest one was with the president of the Board of Ed, former president Sudan Thomas, when he was at his zenith, when the height of his power. I knew that there was something wrong going on with the finances behind the scenes, and I called attention to it. I called attention to the fact that he had filed to run for city council the day after he won the Board of Ed presidency, and this was when he was at his peak influence. So I didn't run against him. I had no beef with him, and it was just out of a duty to the citizens of Jersey City that they should know what was happening behind the scenes. And I called attention to that. And if you look throughout my career, I was the president at McNair Academic, and I was on the citywide student council and a student representative to the Board of Ed. I represented 30,000 students. Then I represented the students at Rutgers University. There were 30,000 students there. I called truth to power there. I never shied away from telling the administration or even the state as to what we needed and how we felt. And I also was the president at Rutgers Law School and the commencement speaker. And that is because my heart lies with the people, and it is the people whom we serve, and we need to make sure that at the end of the day, whatever we do it's going to benefit them. And as far as advancing and as far as building on what Michael Youn has done, I have some ideas. You know, I definitely like his community board, which I was integral in assisting, helping to create that after he won his 2017 election. I think something that I like that Michael Youn did was he was very numbers based. So I want to definitely start tabulating constituent complaints and start categorizing them and start to show the people of the Heights where their resources are going, how many complaints we get, what issues are we resolving, just show them, you know, the proof is in the pudding, right? I want them to get metrics and real metrics based on what I'm doing as a councilman or what I would do as a councilman day to day and week to week, quarter to quarter.
Awesome. Thank you. And let me just give you one, just the second part of that question, which was, how would you approach the role differently than Councilman Youn? Anything on that front that comes to mind?
I think, you know, his style is very very much my style. He had an open table. He invited lots of people. I can't think of anything that I would differentiate from him on as of right now. I know that he sometimes might be speak truth to power, and I'm no different, but maybe stylistically, like I might wear a tie versus a bow tie. So
Fair enough.
that's one way I'd approach it.
Yeah. All righty. So question number 3, which is, you know, for you, what are the most difficult challenges facing the Heights?
For sure, COVID-19 is going to be a big issue for the Heights, getting the businesses, the schools, the parks, all of that open. And it's going to have to be a phase out. That's the biggest issue facing the Heights right now. And as far as the school district, that's another big issue that's facing the Heights. So we need to make sure that we have enough resources and capacity for the growth in our neighborhood, and overall make sure that our children, our teachers, and our parents are tooled for success. And also the arts district, making sure that even though, you know, we're going through a crisis, that we're supporting the arts district and bike paths and all of that. We can't let anything slip by the sidelines. Rent control is huge as well. You know, that and the affordability in the Heights, as you know, it's basically become less and less affordable over the years, and something that I've seen firsthand. So we want to make sure that the Heights remains affordable for people that want to start families. I know I do. So that's important to me. And it's a very family-oriented neighborhood.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks. So you named a lot of challenges there. Can you just tell us specifically, and for the Jersey City residents, what are the top 3 legislative priorities that you'll have? And keep in mind, you'll be holding office until the special election, and then if you're running in November, you'll have more time after that. But what are your top 3 going in?
Definitely closing that $70 million budget deficit that's currently looming over the city council. I'd also like to establish a strategic rainy day fund, a strategic reserve, and making sure that, you know, we have the finances moving forward for whatever other calamity comes down our path, that we'll be able to withstand it and weather it without having, you know, to go through extreme lengths to fill that hole. And the last part is that we want to make sure that families and businesses get back on their feet, and that they are intact after all this is said and done. That we know now that good government is important, and we need a competent government, and that's important now more than ever. So government needs to be there to step in and to help the citizenry in need.
And can I ask a quick follow-up on that? So in your mind, how do we get that done? How do we you know, help keep the families and businesses intact?
There's a lot of things that we have to do, and there are a lot of things that are not in our control, like federal funding. We need to see what kind of federal funding comes through and what the state is going to be allocated and what Jersey City is going to be allocated. And I think Jersey City should get a large portion of whatever federal aid comes through because we have some of the most COVID-19 cases and we need the help for our businesses. And we were one of the first in the state to even implement the social distancing, closing the parks, closing businesses. And it was the state that followed the lead afterwards. So we need to help businesses by giving either a zero or low interest loan. You know, we might need to do some municipal bonding. We might need to do some cutting on our end, any extraneous expenses that we can find within the budget. We need to get creative. We need to get our heads together. We need to make tough decisions and have tough conversations as to how we as a city council can fill that hole. And yeah.
Great. So the next question is, you know, not. I think I'm safe to say this, you know, with COVID and these other things, not the number one most important issue before us, but it is somehow sometimes the third rail of local politics. So, what action would you take as a council person to address parking issues in the Heights and in Jersey City?
Well, I actually had thought about this all my life. It's been an issue. I was thinking. Angled parking seems to, like on the larger streets, maybe if we do angled parking, that saves, it doubles the amount of space, double or triple, sorry, I'm getting a call. It doubles or triples the amount of space that we would have. I also think, let's say there are people with a front yard that is paved that have 2 or more cars. Let's say then they would be able to apply for some sort of permit or utilize that front yard to house those 2 or more vehicles and get them off the street. And it would bring in revenue as well to the city. So that's something we should look at as well. And we also need to make sure enforcement is there because we have, you know, people from New York that come and park here. It's one of our pluses, and also the fact our proximity to New York is a benefit, but also a detriment when it comes to parking. So we need to make sure we have enforcement here in the Heights.
And if I can just do one quick follow-up on this specifically, my understanding is back in 2017, there was a proposal to build parking garages, I believe on Central Avenue or right thereabouts. And I'm wondering if that's something that you would pursue if you get the seat.
I would definitely liaise with the mayor and make sure that, hey, is this going to still happen? I'm going to take the pulse of the community. If it comes down to parking and saving businesses within the Heights and saving families and livelihoods, I honestly, like, we could get creative with how we're going to open up municipal lots, see if that's still on track. But we need to make sure that, you know, that's my first priority, is saving lives and livelihoods. If it comes down to a parking deck versus, you know, saving the businesses and saving the families, then I'm going to save the families and businesses first before we build that parking deck. But I obviously would like community feedback before I make this decision. So I don't want to be rash and, you know, come out in front and say that this is what I'm going to do or this is what I'm going to advocate for. I definitely want to have a listening tour and hear what everyone's going through in the Heights.
Got it. Yep.
All right. James, before we move on, just a quick follow-up and keep it short. Were you saying that you would look to do permits for front yard parking?
Yes, if that's possible for people or families with 2 or more vehicles, that I think it would bring in revenue and it would help alleviate street parking.
I got it. Okay. The next question. Favorite subject of mine. What's your position on inclusionary zoning? And a favorite subject of Councilman Solomon. Should there be any changes to our rent control legislation?
Well, inclusionary zoning, I believe that, you know, it is a tool, the toolbox that we can, when it comes to developers and projects and making sure that we get a certain amount of mixed income into a residence. I don't think that it is a cure-all for the housing crunch that we have in Jersey City, and affordable housing crunch that is. So I think it should be used on a case-by-case basis, and um, that if we use it too much, then sometimes it's basically you're only helping assist the lack of housing supply. So I think in certain neighborhoods, in certain areas that are deemed to need it, we should use it. In other saturated areas, we shouldn't use it. So that's my position on inclusionary zoning. And as far as rent control, I've been, I'm a landlord, but I am definitely an advocate for everything that Councilman Solomon has done with rent control, making sure that landlords aren't abusing their tenants, that tenants are appraised of their rights, and you've made significant headway in that regard, and making sure that rent doesn't increase past a certain percentage unless there's certain significant capital improvements that are made. So I think that, I would love to work with Councilman Solomon regarding rent control and making sure that landlords are fair and that, tenants aren't taken advantage of in Jersey City.
I'm obviously biased, but thank you. And I should note, obviously, Councilman Waterman is sort of a co-chair of the Rent Control Committee and has been doing really, really great work on that front as well.
Yeah.
But so thank you for that. So next question, which you've run for school board in the past, so one that is important. So it's a two-parter. What is your position on the upcoming referendum regarding the governance of the school board, mayoral control versus the elected board? And if you were on the school board today, how would you address the current school budget crisis? So would love to hear your answer.
Okay. So essentially the school board referendum has pros and cons, right? I'm in favor of democracy, and I think everyone should have a vote. But I also think that, having gone through the process, having gone through running for office, having seen what I've seen, and every Jersey Cityan has seen it as well, that it's not a perfect system. And if we were to transition to an appointed board, city council, the one side says city council should have more say in the budget since they have to foot more of the budget, which is a real concern. And there's the issue of making those capital expenditures to improve the schools. And the only way to do that through the current elected board is by putting up a question on the ballot and asking the voters for that. So as opposed to an appointed board, city council can do municipal bonding, they can streamline the process themselves and make those improvements to the schools. And if you've been to a Board of Ed meeting, you heard those parents, those teachers talking about mice in the schools. Like Harry Moore had the roof collapse. That's decades of neglect. That's not something that happens overnight. So it's unfortunate, but I do think that there are both sides are correct, but I'm going to leave it to the voters. It's already a decision that was made before my time, but I see both sides, and we'll work with whatever the voters choose come November.
And on the budget piece, I mean, obviously, according to the state formulas, we're significantly underfunded. At the same point, we're in the middle of an economic calamity. We don't know the scale and scope and duration of. So give us a sense of how would you be thinking about the school budget crisis right now?
I would definitely look towards making cuts where they needed to be made, any redundancies in the budget. I would look at raising taxes minimally if that can be avoided. I would try. Honestly, there are no easy options here, but if you've seen my record, back when Trenton tried to cut the Rutgers budget, we went down there and we protested with 30,000 people. We brought every organization, and that year we received level funding from Trenton. I had told the Board of Ed before that we need to sue the state regarding the funding formula. It's been overturned over 20 times in the past because it's not fair. And we certainly have had the opportunity to foot some of the bill in the past, but due to the abatements, like I understand the whole situation regarding that, but we have been hit so hard. As soon as we got out of state control, they took away our funding, and that is upsetting. We need to take Trenton to task. We need to use every possible avenue we can to get funding. It's honestly, it's a theft of another generation if we don't, if we owe it to those kids to do that.
Okay. The next question I have, you talked about it a little bit earlier. Councilman Solomon had asked you, but regarding COVID-19, and we're going to have a serious economic fallout for residents and small businesses. Can you get a little more granular about that and just give us more detail about how you think the city can help residents as well as small businesses survive and recover from this?
We need to prioritize health and human safety. We need to give out face masks. We need to start talking to businesses regarding social distancing and how they're going to open up, give them thermometers for when they're at the door, like the thermometer guns, biometric, and all staff needs to have face masks. We need 50% less capacity. I think we need to look at similar to the model that Grove Street has done, where they close off some streets, maybe to expand seating for some businesses and more open space in that regard, especially during the summertime. Doing that strategically in some neighborhoods, just so that they are able to have some seats, spread them out. But it obviously has to be couched in the data. It cannot, like, there has to be data to show that we can open up, that the cases are coming down. We need to test aggressively and we need to trace. That's the only way we get out of this until we find a vaccine. And it's going to be a year to 2 years long haul. We need to assist in all those ways, and I'm going to look towards others as well.
Okay.
So next question connected to that, and you referenced this at in one of your answers. The mayor is projecting at this point a $70 million sort of budget shortfall with loss of revenue and increased costs, and that's going to require really tough choices. And obviously, stuff that both Rolando and I are going to be having to address on, for our parts on the council. But as you would start to think about the city's budget, what would you prioritize? So what are the things that you would say, cannot under any circumstances be touched? And where are the areas that you would look to potentially find cuts as well?
Cannot be touched, obviously, health and human services under Stacey Flanagan. We should look towards shifting more resources towards there. Regular patrols. Over time, I think, that needs to be looked at. Debt service that has high interest rates, we need to look at that as well. Like, maybe it's better just to pay off the debt on that. And we need to look at, I saw something about Pershing Field Pool. Like, honestly, I'd look line item by line item and see where we can make those cuts, where the least amount of pain will be felt. We want to make sure that we're prioritizing safety and health, and that's number one. That's key for me, for us to come out of this with our lives and with our livelihoods.
And if I can ask just a sort of follow up on that, if we're faced with a choice where, we might have to cut, pretty essential services or raise property taxes, how are you going to think about that choice?
I think essential services, and we have no easy options here, right? Yep. I think whatever we do, we should do as a united front. The city council, we should take all sides into consideration. And I think we need to recoup some of the money that hasn't been put into, the tax system. That's definitely a glaring issue. We need to ensure that, you know, we're giving a number for the payroll tax. And the other thing is, like, the more we support our businesses, the more we buttress the tax base, right? Like, if we don't save businesses, we don't have a tax base. If we don't save people's homes, we don't have a tax base. So we have to be measured in our approach and, you know, not go too far on either side. It has to be, you know, um, a little here, a little there, a little, you know, and trim where we can, add where we can. I'm not going to advocate a one size fits all approach. I think we have to use everything at our disposal to get through this as a city.
Sure.
Short of declaring bankruptcy, of course.
Yeah, we're gonna try to avoid that. I'm with you.
Yeah.
We're at a 25-minute mark, gentlemen.
All right.
Okay, so we're getting into individual questions, right?
Yeah, one or two individual questions. Yep.
Okay, so I've got one super short one, and so I'm going to ask if I can maybe shoot off two with you, Yousef. Okay. And then
Okay.
the second one is a little more detailed, or require a little bit more thoughtfulness. The first one is, and I don't think you addressed it, will you be running in November? And then the second one, Michael Yun has was so connected to so many different communities in the Heights. And the Heights, I mean, the entire city of Jersey City is very diverse. And the Heights has its own diversity in and of itself, right? So he connected with the seniors and throughout the city, the different senior facilities and senior housing. He connected with the Hispanic communities, with Action 21, St. Anne's community, the Indian community, and then the Parks Coalitions and other folks like that as well. And I'm just touching on some folks. You know, can you talk about your connectedness to those different communities and anything that I haven't referenced, including I don't know what the Councilman Yun's connection was with the Muslim community and the mosques in the Heights as well. But if you can speak to that, would appreciate that, and how you plan to reach out and stay connected with all those communities.
Definitely, there are big shoes, very large shoes to fill with regards to, you know, Michael Youn. He definitely is the embodiment of the American dream and just everything he built and the advocacy he did over his lifetime. And I don't anticipate I'll even come close within my first year, but I'm going to do my best to meet with every single community in the Heights. I'm going to meet with all of them. I've interacted with them at some point through my life, and I hear the concerns, and I've had the luxury of living in a very diverse city. So I'm very attuned to, you know, their voices, and I want to make sure that they're heard, and they will be heard, and they'll have my ear day or night. So I will be reaching out to all of them and meeting with them.
Okay, can you speak a little bit to your current connectedness to a lot of those communities?
Well, I was a member of the RNA. I was part of the Riverview Parks Association. I was the volunteer first, and then I was the treasurer for them as well. I also dealt with Leonard Gordon Park. I've dealt with Paco. I've dealt with a multitude of organizations across the Heights. I was on the Heights Community Board with Michael Youn. Like, I helped initiate that, and just hearing them out. I'm an AARP member, probably the youngest AARP member in Jersey City. So there's a chapter here in the Heights as well. So I know the president there, so I will be attuned to their needs. So I get their monthly newsletter as well, and I will be visiting them, hopefully, you know, when it's safe and appropriate, and when the time comes, hopefully after this vote and when I get this election. And I think you asked me if I was running in November.
Mm-hmm.
And if I am appointed, I will be running in November. And I hope to have your votes as well. And if I am not appointed, then I will honestly step aside, because right now is a very unprecedented time. Maybe November 2021, I'll reconsider, but I think to fill out the rest of the term from now till November, and then for another year. I think it would be really, my energies could be better expended helping the community in other ways than waging a political battle if I don't receive this appointment.
Got it. Yousef, let me ask the last question. So thank you for your time, and we're right at the 30-minute mark. And so to that point, just within the last couple hours, I believe the mayor and the council president have endorsed your potential selection, which is congratulations, I guess, to you on that front. And Councilman Yoon obviously was known for his political independence, and we mentioned this earlier. But can I ask, can you just very briefly tell us, what's one thing that you believe the administration in this second term is doing incredibly effectively, and maybe what's one thing that you may not see eye to eye with them on?
One thing that they're doing very effectively.
Yep.
Wow. This is, I haven't really, the most pressing issue that's come up before the city council that I think has been effectively addressed was the school board issue. And I think the city council and the mayor have taken the Board of Ed to task, and I think it was necessary to be done, that maybe the voters should have an opinion, because we lost 5 BOE members in the last year, and one of them caught federal and state charges, which is that's impressive by Hudson County corruption standards. So I think I saw eye to eye on. I saw eye to eye with them on that, and the only thing I didn't really see eye to eye with the administration was back in the first term of Steve Fulop, Mayor Fulop, when he wanted to put the garbage disposal somewhere on the south side, and that wasn't something that I thought was beneficial for the residents or even good to have in Jersey City, period. So that's something that I recall very vividly that I didn't approve of.
Alrighty. I think that wraps it up on my end. Rolando, anything else?
No, just wish you good luck.
Stay safe.
Thank you. I hope to have your votes as well. It would mean a lot to me. Thank you.
Thank you, Yousef.
Thank you.
Oh, actually, one last thing, James. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Do you want to let Yousef make a final statement just to the voters?
Yeah, I think that it makes sense for all of us to do with all the candidates. So you're going first, Yousef. So yes, we'll let you make a final statement.
My final statement is that I'm a loyal son of Jersey City, born and raised here in the Heights. I'm one of your own, and we're going to get through this together. I want to make sure my neighbors are safe and that they're healthy, and that's the most important thing to me. And we will make it out of this, and we'll be stronger. And one day we'll celebrate. We'll have a big party in the street. So no social distancing, but for now, we have to do what we got to do, and that's what we know how to do in Jersey City Heights. So
thank you, Yousef.
Thank you, Yousef. Luck.
Thank you.